Alright guys, day number 6 of our 7-day Swift challenge. How does it feel? Day number 6, how does it feel? I hope that you feel a sense of, number 1, competent. It means that you now knows to do something. You now knows that, I know variables. I know what coding is. I know, okay, if you want to find a max number out of an array of variables, then you can do that. Maybe what is a loop, what is a class, what is a function, maybe still some misunderstandings or some confusion. That's okay. But now you know you have some new skills. That is competence. And then after you got some competence, you are more confident. You are more confident to do this stuff. And you know that day number 6, you are still here, meaning that you are very much likely to complete this challenge. So congratulations. Today, we talk about class initializer. It means that how can we initialize? How can we just like create very fast some objects with some initialization, with some initial values, or some first values, some default values, right? So let's do that in this upcoming demo. In this session, we talk about one thing only, that is class initializer. Now, what is a class initializer? Initializer, it means that it is a function inside your class that can initialize, that can give the initial values to those properties. So I'm going to use the recipe class again from our previous session. In that session, the recipe class will have 3 properties. Again, a class is just a blueprint that describes an object and it has properties. Right? It has properties, and later on we'll learn that it has also functionalities too. So imagine that an object like a car, the property of a car can be what is the color of the car, what is the brand of the car, what is the made of the car, what is the year of the car that was made. It also has functionalities. It can drive forward, it can reverse, it can fly, who knows what in the future a car can do, right? So that is a class. A class describes the properties and the functionalities of an object in general. But look at the properties of our recipe right now. The properties here, it has a name, but we give it an initial value of an empty string. The description, we give it an initial value of an empty string, the rating of 0. That could be weird because if I create a let's say, I don't know, stack, right? And we create a recipe, we have to create like this, as I told you in the last session. That's totally cool. But what if we forgot to give these properties initial values, or somehow we assume that this is okay, and when we access the stack.name, then it's still an empty string. That is false information, and that should be not happen. It should not happen. Well, in order to make sure that number one, we give our instance proper initial values. Number 1, we need to give our properties, right? Proper, I know a lot of P right there, values, proper initial values. Okay, and number 2, it should be more convenient, right? More convenient that when we create an instance, we should be able to give those instance initial values its properties immediately. Not like we have to just have recipe stack.name equals stack.full description equals something, stack.rating equals something. That would be like a mouthful. So there comes initializer. Initializer is a function, and we call it, okay, initializer, we call it for short, the keyword is init, and it is a method which is a function inside a class, okay, that initialize our properties. Okay, I hope it makes sense. So that's all it takes. The reason why we use an init method, initializer method, is it gives our properties proper initial values, and also number 2, it's more convenient to use. So, and number 3 is actually number 3 is the proper values. So there are 2 reasons most of the time we use it. So in order to use the init, we use init like this, and inside our parameter list, which is inside the open and close parentheses, we have the parameters, right? So now to initialize this class recipe, we need the name of the recipe, which is a string. We need the full description of a string, right? And we need the rating of a string. Of an int. Now pay attention that this init is a special method. Now again, a method is just a function inside a class. This init is a special method. That's why we don't need the func keyword. Later on in next session, we talk about function in class. You'll see that we still need the func keyword, but init is a special method, so we don't need the func keyword. Okay. Now here, we have to initialize the name here. We have to give this name, the properties here, this name, this value. So we have to do what? We have to do name equals name. Now, the minute I typing in name equals name, you start to be confused, right? You are confused already, because name equals name. What does it mean? It doesn't make any sense, right? Name equals name. And of course, you will got an error, and the error is cannot assign value name to a let constant. What is that? Right? What is that? We have name here. Okay, we want to assign the name here to a name here, which is this name. We are referring to that. And the name here is a variable. We should be able to do that, right? But it says name is a let constant. Well, as it turns out, that the minute when we do name equals name here, it assumes that this name is this guy, right? Both of these are actually this guy. That is what Swift infers. And the parameter that you pass, or the argument you pass into the function, it is not a variable. It is a constant. It is a let constant. So that's why you cannot change its value. But what we want to do is we want to assign the value of this thing that we pass into it, into this thing, right? So now, there are 2 ways we can do that. Number 1, we can change the name of this thing into a name or the name or something. And then here we can do name equals a name. Make sense? So it can be anything here. It can be anything. All right. Now, how about full description? Well, we should change that into a full description too. But that's again like I personally don't like that kind of naming convention. But the point I'm trying to make for you is that pay attention to the naming convention here. And number 2 is you can use another keyword that will differentiate that which is the property we are referring to. And this is incredibly important, so please pay attention, because when I am in Total as Blueprint, or I personally coach people, up until the very a few months inside the program, so now I imagine that this is like the first or second day you are watching this once you join our iOS development Kickstarter program, and let's say you are second day. I hope that you are on your first or second day, but imagine that there are a lot of people on a few months or inside the program, or a few months in building apps, they still ask this question because they skip the fundamentals, they skip the foundation. So please do not be that person, okay? So pay attention. Here we go. Here I want to differentiate that, hey, I want to give this value to this value of the class recipe. And the way we're going to do that is we use a keyword called self. The self here, it means that this class, this whole class is our self, right? So if I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have a MacBook, and when I refer to myself, then it is me, Duke Tran, right? And when I tell that, hey, my iPhone, that I'm referring to the iPhone that I'm using, it is mine. It has my name on that. It has my iCloud ID on that, right? So it's the same over here. We are telling it that, hey, I want to referring to something of mine. And here we go. We use self.full description. So I tell that, hey, I want to access the full description property of mine, which is this class recipe. And then we do equals full description. And now when we tell full description without the self keyword, Swift will knows that, okay, so it is here inside the parameter list. Makes sense, right? So now the same for the rating. So I will use self.rating. Again, self, it means that my rating, the class rating, okay, equals to rating, like this. And there you have it, an initializer. I know that there's only 4 lines of code right here, or 5 lines of code right here, but I have to explain so much. And please do not think that this is the basic stuff. This is the really important stuff, because without this knowledge, you are going to struggle a lot when you build app. Do not think that the fundamentals is the easy and the boring or the unnecessary stuff, because building apps is not like you doing workout or something, because doing workout you can change the different modality, or you can change the moves or the gestures whenever you like. Of course, there's different level of difficulties, but building programs, you don't have the foundation. If you jump on the top, you're going to stuck, because you don't know the foundation. There's no way that you know the advanced stuff. So please pay attention in these kind of things and ask a lot of questions too. Okay. All right. So now, when we have this initializer, the nice thing about it is we don't have to give it these initial values for the properties if it doesn't make sense. So now, if I delete that, it's okay now. And if I delete this initializer, pay attention. If I delete this initializer and it's running, okay, and it will have an error. And it says here, class recipe has no initializers, because yeah, it makes sense. Like if we have like a blueprint of, say, a table, right? The design of a table, and the design of a table doesn't give me what is the properties of that table. Like, does it have 1 leg or 3 legs or 4 legs or 5 legs? What is the color? What is it made of, right? It doesn't make sense. That's why a class must have, number 1, either the initial values of these things or an initializer or some initializers. Okay, at least 1 initializers. And you guess what? Before, if we did like this, right? Before we did it like this, and if we don't have the initializer like that, the reason why you don't see any error again is because when we call it recipe like this, right? That in another itself is an initializer, a default initializer that Swift gave us for free, because we already initialized all of our properties. That's all. Okay, that's why we are required to either initialize all of the properties of a class, or we give the initializer for that class. So here we go. Let me get back our initializer right here. Okay, I hope that this makes sense. And now let me show you how we can create an instance out of this class. Let's say let what's something ramen equals to recipe like this, and we have a name is ramen like this. For description is like pork plus noodles plus something weird, and then rating is like 5. Okay, and here we go. You see that in just one single statement, this is what we call a statement. One single statement, we can have a fully fledged object. Here we go. I hope that you enjoy this. Let's have another example. let's create another class. And if you remember in the last code challenge, in our class session, right, in the session about class, we talked about that inside class we can have another instance of the class itself, right, of another class. The Flappy Bird has an instance of a points class. Remember that? So now let's create a recipe box. Yeah, I know. This exercise I'm going through with you is going to directly help you inside your recipes app. Yeah, how's that? Okay, so recipe book, and here inside the book it has tons of recipes. So recipes is an array of recipes like that, right? And now it may have again like some categories too. So we have an array of string. Okay, again, I don't have to give these properties some dumb initial values because we are going to write an init for the recipes, which is an array of recipe, and then categories is an array of string. Okay, and then we just have to use self.recipes equals to recipes, and self.categories equals to categories, like that. Cool. All right. Oops, I'm sorry. This is colon string. Okay, makes sense. All right. So that is how you write a class inside another class, or I'm sorry, an instance of a class inside another class. Now let's initialize this thing. So we have a ramen over here. Let's have another one. Let's say omelet. I don't know if I write it correctly, but hey, it's a programming class, not a cooking class. So omelet, okay, and then we have description is of course eggs, and then rating is like 5, okay, or actually I'm going to say 3. Okay, so now let's have book, a recipe book equals to recipe book like this, right? And then it has the recipes here. I can use an array right on the fly, and inside this we're going to give it ramen, and then we have omelet, right? The category, let's give it something like okay, so how about Japanese, right? And string Japanese, and we have like French. I hope that it is French. Okay, here we go. That's a book. So now we can access the book dot, right? We use the dot notation again to access the property of a class. So book dot recipes. There we go. We have all the recipes. And because this is, again, now what is the type of book dot recipes? What is the type of book dot recipe? Yep, you're correct. Book dot recipes is an array of recipes. It means it is an array. It means we can use subscript, right? Then we have a recipes. It means that we can use .count, right? Then we have 2. It means that we can use append a new recipe for something like tiramisu, like that. From description something, rating is 5. Here we go. We append just one new on the fly. I hope that you will look at this syntax once again, because if you're new, I know that this thing is like blowing your mind. And with that in mind, that's all I have to talk to you about Initializer in Swift. And again, this is just a small introduction for you to Swift and programming and class Initializer. But guess what? This is all it takes for you to start learning to build apps. In next module, which is just one video away, please still watch the next one, right? In just one video away, in the next module, we are going to build your first app using exactly these classes. So don't worry, we are going to reuse all these code again. You are not waste that. Okay, so now do your code challenge. You know the drill. Scroll down below this video, do the code challenge. I would say let's say 10 minutes, 15 minutes top. Okay, do this code challenge, come back with me in 10 or 15 minutes and we'll do the code challenge together. We'll review it together. Do it now. Do not delay it. Do it now. Did you do it? Did you do your code challenge? Here we go. Let's do the code challenge, okay? This is a new one, so let's do that. We have a class app, and this app has a name. I'm going to quite fast because I assume that you already did that. If you think that there's something that you want to ask, post your question below, or you can pause the video and type in it, okay? We have var developer is a string, we have var rating is an int, we have category is a string, we have price is a double, like that, right? And then we have an init, the name is a string, we have developer is a string, rating is an int. Now you may think that this is like duplicate or doesn't make any sense. It's just that our example is simple and I want you to practice with this. That's all. That's why this thing seems like common sense, but it will help, trust me. Okay, here we go. Self.name equals name. Again, why do we want to use the self? Why do we want to use the self? Why don't we just use name equals name? I hope that you can answer that question. Okay, I will not talk about that question. Hey, let me talk about. Okay, the reason why we use the self name is that if we don't use it, we have an error because the script doesn't know why do you assign the name to itself like this, right? So we use self.name to make sure that we tell Swift that, hey, I want to assign the value of this guy to be this guy, right? All right, so self.rating to be rating, self.category to be category, and self.price to be price, just like that. And now, if we have, let's initialize, let's create some. Flappy is an app with the name is Flappy Bird. Developer is, I believe, is Rovio. We got the rating is, let's say, 4. Category, I don't play games that much, or I don't really play games. Okay, 4.99, like that. Okay, and so we have, let's is it Flappy Bird is Rovio? No, is that some other guy? The end, don't end. Okay, let Angry Bird is apps with the name is Angry Bird, and that's the developer is Rovio. Rating like 4. Category is games. Price is 1. I don't know. Just give it. And then we have Crazy. There's no app like this. Okay. Crazy Bird. Developer is unknown. Inc. Rating is 3. Category is games. Price is $1.99. Just like that. Okay. And then I ask you to create an AppStore class. So class AppStore is it contains an array of apps. Right? Oops. Apps like this. And we give it an init as the apps is an array of app. Right? And we do self.apps equals apps. And then, oops, here we go. Over here, we got let apps is an array of these apps that we initialize. I'm sorry, we create those instances. So Flappy, Angry, and Crazy, just like that. And we have an AppStore is the AppStore with these apps. Okay, and then we do. How about let's access these AppStore, right? Dot apps, and we have an array of Flappy, DN, and those things. And then let's access the first element, subscript 0, right? Which is our app right here, and that is Flappy Bird. And now the Flappy Bird here, which is an app, we can access the rating, the name, right? The name. Let's have our name dot name. There we go, and this should be Flappy Bird.
Alright, my friend,
that is that for training number 6 of our 7-day Swift challenge. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson and this code challenge. Again, if you have the gut to do it, go through all the code challenges that you have been doing over the last 6 days and see if you still have any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to post it right below this video for me and I will happily answer all of your questions. Until then, I see you tomorrow, day number 7, our last day of the 7-day Swift challenge. I see you here tomorrow. It's been amazing. So have a good night or good morning or good evening. Bye bye.